Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And today is, what is it, June 5th, 2022. And we're in the first week of June already. So, like so many times before, I basically have said that the year has been going by fast, and there have been a lot of changes as we see. And we're going to talk about some of those evolving changes and the right course of action and what to do exactly in our forefront of our lives. We are noticing things like outrageous inflation of fuel costs, of food prices. We are noticing that people are starting to turn on each other where they normally wouldn't turn. But we're going to talk about really taking back ourselves in action. And that's what the month of June is. And then that's what it's going to be about, especially for Rise and Grind. We're going to talk about actions specifically. Yeah, you got to put the actions in place and as well as the discipline. And it's very, very important to understand what that may mean for you. That's right, what it may mean for you. So just a quick little side note. Right now I'm producing live on Wisdom, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. So if you want to be a guest, if you want to be making comments, you can hit up for my Wisdom users. You'll see my profile and it will give you a link right to the YouTube. So if you want to type in a comment or so on and so forth, as well as Twitch and Facebook and Twitter, so you all can be readily available and, be able to say something, if you can't make up becoming a speaker on Wisdom. And that's right. If you're on the other side of the communication where you're watching just through YouTube, there is an app called Wisdom. You can join Wisdom, look at my profile, and you can join in for a little bit. Now I'm going to keep all my callers to 5 minutes or less. I didn't set the timer, but I'm asking you to make your clear points in less than 5 minutes as we talk about the show today. So, what are we going to really, really dive into action? So, I was really interested in so many different readings, and I'm glad that I read this morning. I was feeling a little discombobulated, just a little kind of hazy, but I needed to have some refocus. And I tried my day without having, let's just say, certain things. I went a couple days without drinking, you know, uh, not drinking my mud water. So if you want to know what mud water is, I'll give you a link. Matter of fact, I'll put that in here now. And yeah, so you can go into the YouTube and you'll see mud water and you'll see a link. And I think you'll get up to 10 to $20 off your first order. So shout out to mud water. The product, the mushroom, the chai, the black pepper, the Himalayan salt, all that stuff combined into one drink, morning start, has kind of like just brought me into a good focus where I like to be. So anyhow, getting back to the story, or back to the principle of the show, I was reading May 31st out of The Daily Laws by Robert Greene, and he says a few distinctive things that I really think that let's start in the right course of action, like making the right choices of what you're dealing with or who you're dealing with. So I'll do a little bit of reading just out of his works, and May 31st he titled it "Know Who You're Dealing With." Now he quotes Lord Chesterfield. He says, "Be convinced there are no persons so insignificant or inconsiderable, but many or may sometime or other have it in their power to be used to you, which they certainly will not if you have once shown them contempt." Now, Robert goes on to Green, and I feel I highlighted a couple of key points of what this page is, and he's referring to his Law 19 in the 48 Laws of Power, knowing who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. So he goes on and says the ability to measure people is the most important skill of gathering and conserving power. With without it, let me raise this up. Without it, if you are blind and not only will you be offended with the wrong person, you will choose the wrong types to work on, and you will think you are flattering people when you are actually insulting them. Before embarking on any move, Take the measure of your mark and potential opponent. Otherwise, will waste time and make a mistake. Study people's weakness and the chinks in their armor and their areas of both pride and insecurity. Know their ins and outs before even deciding whether or not you deal with them. Two final words of caution, though. First, in judging and measuring your opponent, never rely on your instincts. You will make the greatest mistakes of all. Rely on such inexact indicators. Nothing on substitute for gathering concrete knowledge. Study and spy on your opponent for however long it takes. This will pay off in the long run. Now, second, never trust appearances. Anyone with a serpent's heart can use and show kindness of a cloak. A person who is bluntly on the outside often really a coward. Never trust the version that people give themselves. It is utterly unreliable. So the 48 law says, you know, what possible good can come from ignorance about other people? Learn to tell the lions from the lambs and pay the price. So this reading is really, really cautionary, I would have to say, for so many reasons. And it's not because I mean, many people would observe that, well, I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm not here to make anyone feel uncomfortable. It says constantly in many of the theologies is don't judge people. But in reality, we constantly do. It's whether the judgments are carried out for convenience, in favor, or just to get along. We tend to want to get along more often because of what? We are trying to get the things that we're interested in and what we want done. So, how do we really kind of like take on what Robert said? Like, hey, don't trust your instincts. There's more to it than just your instincts. And then also, don't just trust with the appearance of what you see. Take time and patience. So, when we're making our daily choices for our actions, for our benefits, um, look and consider like what do you really understand. Many people will tell you that if you don't have a plan, if you don't have some kind of idea of where you're going or what you want, then why are you even doing it? Why are you trusting in it? A lot of people speculate on a lot of things. We talk in generalities. We'll say, well, a lot of people do this, and I've done that myself. But I've also said that, the population is not so easily to generalize. What is the most important part of my daily? And it is recognizing of myself and who I am responsible for, right? So when we look at whom we are responsible for, number one, the first thing, take care of yourself. And that means mind, body, and spirit. Those are your three primary duties. If you don't take care of those 3 things, you are gonna have a lot of problems. Now, there's all kinds of ways that people will tell you, and even I've said it myself, how to start, where you can look at, what you best can do. But see, I also kinda like what Robert Greene also talks about, the divine craft, in the beginning of June, like the first couple pages of his daily laws book, he kind of spells it out. And he says the month of June will make people, learn how to make people bend at their knees by using their own against them. Now, that's cautionary, right? I mean, it's not completely quoting him all the way, but I'm giving us some. But what he means is like if you feel that constantly you're levered against, you're not making the right moves, you're not getting the right opportunities, before you worry about anyone else, evaluate exactly what you are doing on a constant and look at where you're actually making efforts and actions on a daily. So when we think about, am I really applying myself? When I have to say, I need a break, I need a vacation, I've said it myself. Matter of fact, I told my significant other, I told, my partner that, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm dealing with. I need a vacation. I need a break. I don't take many breaks. But here's reality is, and I really got to thank her for saying this to me. She's like, take the break when you have the resource, you know, otherwise stop misspending your availability, your energy, your money, all that. And I really, really have to appreciate that because she reminded me of the best parts of me that needs to be applied where. So yesterday I took an exam for something, working with the profession, and I really wasn't necessarily feeling it at 5 o'clock in the morning. But I had to say to myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this exam and I'm going to do my absolute best. I've been preparing, I've been studying for this, and the outcome and the success of passing this exam will fund what I need for resources, not just for myself, but those who rely on me. But that's also, it goes into understanding your mental toughness. I read a couple of days ago, or no, matter of fact, a day or two ago, I think there was a question that said, "Do I realize how tough and strong I am capable of being?" Now, of course, that's easy to say when you're mad, right? I know how to be resilient when, hey, you object to me, I'm literally going to know how to step back or step forward. I'm going to know exactly the main principles of my application. Now, I'm not here to defame or talk smack about anyone else. That's not my job. But when I really started to paying attention, like, am I going to apply my best to today? Got up Sunday morning, I drank my mud water. I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed being informed. I enjoyed my creative, constructive thoughts to put me in a mode for not just performance, but results. My mind is going to put me into action, and my actions are going to produce results out of today. What am I going to do exactly today? I'm going to go spend time with my significant other. I'm going to spend time with my 4-year old. And those people are incredibly valuable. And that's not to say that, my other daughters aren't important, but right now I don't have access to them. And that's me being transparent. Do I need to be? No. But it's also being careful, which goes on to the 48 laws. Be careful what you say to people. Be careful what you tell people. People will assume that they got the best of you constantly, you know? So they're basing their judgments on measuring of what you show. And this is why it's so important that, if you've heard it from other motivational speakers, and this is why they say, hey, don't tell people about your goals. Don't tell people what you're going to do because they will hold on to that thought because more than likely it's something they don't do that they probably are thinking about, but they're waiting to see the results of what you produce. So kind of like your reputation, if you're someone who keeps flabbergasting and talking, monotonous to so many people and telling people like, hey, this is what I'm going to achieve and this is what I'm going to do, that's great. But they are keeping track. People that really are envious of you and care about you or who are jealous of you, they will keep track of your progress. But if you don't tell them what you're thinking or how you're doing it until it's completed, their assumptions all they have. And that actually keeps you in a safe zone. Matter of fact, last couple of days, I've been in some conversations. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Daryl, on wisdom, and I was in his Twitter spaces. And the question was, is can science and miracles coexist? And I didn't want to say that I played the devil's advocate, but I played the voice of indifference. So many people had been speaking in a spiritual view and that love and God and truth were the absolute, makers and breakers, and at times I would hear the conversations talk about how, they would essentially agree that science does work with miracles because, the science developed, the knowledge, the wisdom developed for use, exposed the way for how someone is treated or the event is remedied or whatever, in which people you say, well, there's no other way. We didn't see it coming. We didn't know how. We didn't know how possible. But see, that's I was just on another colleague of mine's show, Kareem, and he was talking about the Kabbalion law, basically of hypnotics. or excuse me, not the hypnotics, the Hermetic philosophy. And what this basically does, Hermetic philosophy, I mean, if you want to go over to his show, and he's probably producing it live, I think still, Hermetic philosophy has a lot. It's basically saying that he believes in the doctrine that a single or true theology exists. But see, as human beings, we can't dictate that, for everyone. And this is why many different continents have different belief systems. They have their ideologies, they have their systems. And when different groups travel to different reasons to influence or change what they believe, they're called colonizers. That's right, they're called colonizers. And the colony that they transplant and try to take the local population and indoctrinate and get them to stop believing what they do creates conflict. It creates conflict because, like religions will constantly give the reason for God and the reason for their ignorance and their conditions. But isn't if you really take that and set that aside, if you look at how everything else is propounded, how it's given, how it's understood. Like right now, in the last 4 days, I've turned on television for different programming, some documentaries and stuff like that. And in the last 4 days, majority of the commercial break are about political ads. Why? Because it's midterm election in the United States. So when we look at the midterm election, I heard one candidate say that's running for Congress, we need to secure our borders. That was the only main principle of why he was running for Congress. Now, easily I could tell he has a Republican view, and then you have another opposite view of him. I will bring and he literally labeled like, hey, the conflict of that is that we're not going to let Republican viewpoints interfere with the rights of the people. And if you support me, I've been trying to secure and make adequate gun rights and laws and voter suppression laws or voter suppression to not exist. And then the funnier part, like the governor, and then this is a person I will call out because I really don't want to vote for him. He's the only time I actually will say that I'm purposely not voting for you, guy. Governor Gavin Newsom, who has been in office last 4 years. Um, the problem with him is like how he ran things in COVID. He decided to break his own regulations and rules, for the convenience of what? People were staying home, isolated, but people really didn't give a care. And now his premise on running for election is running on, I'm here to secure women's right to choice for abortion. And then there's his opponent who, vice versa. But it's like if people really understood the office of what these men and women run for, it's not just on these one principle. They're distraction, they're smoke and mirrors. What is really in your presence? Number one, you can't avoid, like in California where I live, check this out. In Stockton, California, the average price of gas is $6, right? $6 a gallon. Now, your cost of food, whether you have a takeout, whether you go to the grocery store, wherever you get it from, has boosted tremendously, you know? So are they really addressing the inflation rates? And even yesterday's show was kind of talking about, do you notice the financial things that are going on? So if you want to find out more, go back and listen to the previous show before this one on wisdom. You'll be able to find it. Anyhow, so the point is that the smoke and mirrors to get you distracted and not making a conscious choice on the best of what you can do and provide for yourself. Like one, how valuable would it be to your household if you actually had a functional pantry where you have food that you're not constantly buying, you're not going to the grocery store and spending and spending and spending. You're actually, if you had to make choices in the sustenance for yourself. Having a functional pantry, like, do you have beans and rice, and flour to make those things? But see, a lot of people, many of us have said, oh, well, I have the convenience of the grocery store, I have the supply. But now that that's being threatened because of inflation, now people are looking to remedies. I've seen some friends of mine talk about making bread makers. They're talking about learning old recipes that their parents had handed down to them, and it's kind of been just laying there and collecting dust. Cookbooks, things how to better your life. So when we're looking at actions per se, when we're looking at what really matters, is it the resources that are threatened that we're just like we're scared, We're distracted enough because you know what? Those people in the political ads, to me, they're not important because they haven't touched not once on the issues that really matter to me. So what can I do with in my neck of the woods? I can actually choose to learn how to train my mind, how to not get emotionally disruptive. That's right, emotionally disrupted. The biggest, most important part of your discernment of everyday living is how you're going to approach your day going forward. Now, in reflection of this Sunday brunch, looking back at this week, what were a lot of the emotions that I went through? I went through fear. I went through anxiety. I went through sorrow. These were parts of my week, and it's like I'm trying to find a good therapist for me and my daughter, my 14-year-old, as an example. I'm working on a certain lawsuit right now, and it just didn't seem like the answers were coming out. And I did begin to kind of panic. I did begin to kind of stress out. And then the exam yesterday I took. So all these things compacted didn't make my life through those days very palatable. But, however, I did manage to get through every single day. I did manage to, at the end of my day, that I was satisfied with what I could do, with what control I did have, mostly about working on mastering my emotions. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always going to have emotions figured out. It doesn't mean you're always going to have the best, like people say, I'm not perfect. Well, that's perfect because now it leaves you in an open view. I'm, and I asked God, the universe, without coding myself, I am like, I am at your mercy. I'm asking for opportunities to find the way out of these situations. And in return, I give this back. I give back to provide to my community and to the world. And that's why making and speaking and making my podcast, making my YouTubes, why is so very, very important because it's a consistent thing. And so I had to decide, okay, for the next 6 weeks, Mondays and Wednesdays specifically at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, I will come on live and record for 1/2 hour, no more than 1 hour. But most of the time, I will keep my content to 1/2 hour at best. That's with the leeway of having guests and people who come on and speak, who want to contribute to the work. But that's my agreement, my standard. For the next 6 weeks, I will make Rise and Grind Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 days a week, my priority content creation days. Anything out of that is a bonus. I do have something scheduled. I'm trying to schedule with my good friend Mojo, my good friend Joseph. I want to talk to him about, a man-to-man episode, and I'm trying to write the script and ideas because I respect this man, and I think he'd be a great collaborative partner to do, and I do want to bring him here live on YouTube as well as in Wisdom. So, with all that being said, that means that I'm crafting my experience. I'm making the way, so to speak. And I am trusting my experience, but I'm also allowing myself to learn the new processes. In Robert Greene's book, The Daily Laws, he kind of talks about June, the divine craft. And he talks about, like in one of the pages, he talks about how basically when he got to a certain point after writing the strategies of war, the 33 strategies of war he wrote, and he talked about how he bought a pool table and that he dove deep in the art of playing the game pool, playing the pool table. And he kind of used the metaphors of using the different angles and the different power and the different strokes that it would take to successfully put the ball or connect one white ball to any of the stripe or solid into getting those balls into the holes. But I really liked at one of something that he rose on page 195 of the Daily Laws. He says, to play well, to raise your game, your focus must be total. And as in pool life, so in life, suckers and beginners are locked into a single ball at a time, mentally getting all excited. They knock one in on a clever shot, but leave themselves nowhere to go. They never learn angles above the um, angles. Yeah. Then there are the people that raise their game a little, who give the appearance of knowing how to hustle, can actually knock a few shots in a row. But it goes more than that. He talks about, in the first beginning page, he talks about the strategies. Are you leaving your like I know how to play pool. My dad was actually pretty good at pool and he kind of showed me a few things. And one of the things he would say is make sure that you leave yourself with a leave, you know? And he used to watch like on ESPN the pool the billiards championships and stuff. And I'd watch these people just methodically hit softly and sometimes hard, and me, I'm just like a kid at the time, my dad showing me the ins and outs, and I'd just be trying to hit that ball, try to knock all the balls as hard as I could and see how many I could knock in all at once. But it left me sloppy, kind of like what Robert Greene was talking about. Now think about the actions that you take. Now, in reflection of this week, yeah, I hit the ball pretty hard in a lot of different places, but I also let myself come to Sunday brunch, and actually be collective and calm and say to myself, what did I learn in reflection of those dilemmas and those problems? How can I better apply myself if they arose this week the same way? And that means carefully crafting the experience, taking action. And this is another very, very big point, and it's something I was kind of reviewing from somebody else told me. I'll make sure that you uphold your sovereignty. Don't let others leverage your sovereignty based on your emotional level and your content. Your emotional intelligence is everything. Your emotional intelligence is going to tell you your IQ, your intelligence. So as you go forward through this week, I want you to carefully, you can buy all these self-help books all you want. But if you can't apply them, you just spent 33, $45, $20, $16 on a book that's going to sit on a shelf and do nothing. It may do for somebody else at some point, but it's not doing for you. So when we look at, what to achieve, how to really appreciate our experience, appreciate our spirituality, how to appreciate and take our physicality, you know, our mind, body, and spirit. If we don't look about those necessities, those are your primary duties. Take care of those three things, and a lot more things will work out. You'll have a lot more potential to make better choices. I've got a speaker who wants to come in. I got Joseph. Hey, Mojo. I was just talking about you a moment ago. So, I saw your message and I was going to talk to you about that in just a minute, but we're bringing you up. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Rise and grind, Jason. What's going on, my friend?
Not much. So to give you an answer on your message you sent me is like I'm writing a script and I will let you know exactly in a few days of exact questions, and then we'll schedule the time. So that gives you a heads up,
Can't wait.
you
Totally
know.
looking forward to it. Yep,
Yeah,
that sounds great. Sounds
yeah.
great.
So
I,
your
while
words
you're
of
talking,
wisdom to add to today.
I was gonna say a couple things. One, I've only caught like the last four words that you shared, but I loved those four words. I thought those were awesome. I'm driving right now. I'm on my way to from Orange County, where I live, to the Valley, Sanford down the Valley, because
Nice.
I'm a realtor on the side. So a house is going on the open house today, and I just got to check it out and make sure everything's good. And then back home for my wife's birthday party.
Nice. Well, happy birthday to your wife from me to her. So you can tell her, say, hey, happy birthday. The architect said so, or Jason said so.
The architect said so, and she'll say, "What is wrong with you, Joe? You are so weird."
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, "Well, you married me, so it's your own fault."
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
Um, so what I heard, Jason, and I'm
mhm.
sure there was way more content than I caught, is that take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and then
Yes.
you get those things aligned, and life falls into place. That was my interpretation.
Yes.
Um, but I can't agree more with you, man. And I see it I see it around me clearer every day, and I think that's probably part of the journey of life. At age 56, um, a lot of things that I innately or perhaps inherited to believe that were true, I was only scratching the surface. As I look back now, I realize that there's so much more to learn and ways to grow, and that it didn't change what I believed to be true, but it made it really, really rich and deeper. But the mind, body, spirit connection that you're referring to, I see it everywhere, but I don't think I fully understood it. Now that I started practice of meditation about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, which I had been a prayer my entire life. I often say, like my spiritual conversation with God is a running dialogue wherever I am, and I kind of wore that almost as a badge of courage or pride. And I realized now in the last couple of months that I was really missing out on something much richer and deeper by stopping and being quiet and listening and being mindful and going, you know, intentionally into that conversation rather than on the fly. And that's really been a game changer for me.
Right. And there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, because the three things that I was talking about, the spiritual mind, body, and spirit, the mind, body, and spirit, it's very important. That is your primary duty in life. That's your number one. Take care of that. Number two, be the best you can. Do the best of what you got while you have it.
Yeah,
As we get older, I'm approaching 50, you're 56. Life means so much more different than from when we were 30 or 25 or 18. It has been
so true.
sometimes a slow and fast progression to the way that we appreciate things. And we as men, looking at the responsibility and the duties as being even dads, fathers, men who are in the community, we make differences every day, believe it or not. People speak about your reputation and you would never know it until
Right.
someone lets you know.
Yeah. Because
And
they don't do it when you're there. They won't say it to you, but
mhm,
they'll tell everybody else what they think.
right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll say it when it serves their self-interest,
Sure.
or they're extremely touched, and that your words, your actions move them in such a way that it allows them to make a choice in a better direction for themselves, and
Yeah.
sometimes in a worse. But we're not going to
Right.
go over that.
That's true
But
though.
the point is it's like I tell people, I don't have to be right for you. I could be right for myself with the caveat of learning. So if I may make a decision today and it's wrong tomorrow, that's okay, because
Right.
I can be wrong. And this is one thing that I really advocate for: allow yourself to I don't knows.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, and I think that's part of the evolution too, Jason. You're talking about that as we grow older, and for me anyway, I'll speak from my own perspective. So at 50,
Oh, he went out. You can come back in and land the plane in less than 5 minutes. So come on back, Mojo. Let's see if he comes back. I know he's driving. Okay, there we go. And three, two, one. All right, you're back.
yeah. So I really resonate with what you're saying there on so many levels, and I do believe it's part of my evolution, my growth arc as a human and as a man in particular in this culture. That I, as I look back over my life, when you're young, when I was young, I felt pretty immortal. So
Hmm?
I wasn't thinking about death at all. I wasn't afraid of death. I just didn't think it was on the horizon.
If it's not your concern, you ain't got no gray hairs on your head or your whiskers, then guess what? It's no big deal.
Right, right. So I get it now in my 50s, and suddenly I feel the sense that at best my life is half over on this earth, but more likely more than that. And now I've got two girls, ages 15 and 13. who I really want to be able to provide for. Both, should they get married, should they go to college? Those are two big expenses, and just being a dad for them emotionally, and being a good role model, all those type of things. But now I look even something really practical in terms of retirement. I've worked for nonprofit faith-based organizations my entire life, and so the work has been rewarding and fulfilling, but it hasn't paid much, and I don't have retirement to speak of, and I don't have much time now. I realize, to build a retirement. So when a financial planner comes to me at age 22 and says, "Here's the power of compound interest. Put $50 away a month, and then when you get to be in your 50s, you'll have a huge retirement fund." I understood that, but did I do it? No, because I didn't feel the need. Right? It didn't serve me. Didn't feel like it was necessary. I look back and going, Joseph, you had what have you not done? That's not going to serve you well now, and whenever retirement comes, if you can even afford to do that. But you're right. As time passes and I get closer to expiration date, it does change my value system and my priorities.
Yeah, it's very important. But see, I'm going to give you the lighthouse beacon of hope. Now, Judge Judy said on a TikTok, she said, it doesn't matter when you start on your progress and your success. She basically said it, and she's all, if you're going to, she's all, look at all the people that succeeded later. Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC, his brand is known worldwide. Now,
Yeah,
how much of that success did he enjoy in his legacy? Don't know. But, you know, people now enjoy fried chicken around the world.
true.
So to me, what I can tell you is it really the retirement that you're worried about or the wealth and abundance you're building presently? So, and that's where managing your mind, body, and spirit is so important, because as you mature to understand, you will say, self, let's look into financial investments where yeah, times past I wasn't able to do that before, but now what can I do going forward? There's
Yeah.
always if you can ask the question and you're willing to find the way, there is a way. So don't feel so bad.
Well,
Trust
I
me.
believe that. Thank you. That's a good reminder of what I innately believe to be true, and has proven to be true throughout my life.
And
Um,
don't forget action, Joe. Straight up. It's got to be an actionable point, not a theoretical point.
right. No, agreed. No, agreed. In fact, I don't know if you've listened to or read much of Robin Sharma's work. He's a coach to some of the highest profile people in history, and he says over and over again that ideation without implementation is delusion, which is a
Right.
really fun and fancy way of saying what the Bible says: faith without works is dead. Right?
Hmm.
That's pretty stark. And
Right.
people get that mixed up a lot. Well, does that mean that you're saved by your works? That's not exactly what it says at all. It just says if you believe something and you believe that is true, then you will take action. And in fact, if you're not taking action, you probably don't really believe it.
True. It's like when people get
Right?
a book and they're just like, oh, I read it, but then what? And then you put it back on your shelf. No, it takes
Yeah.
study and practice, implementation, integrated.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one of my jobs along the way was working at a fairly prominent church in Los Angeles. And when I first got hired, I was told that George Barna, who's this renowned research group, came in and did a several month study about the pros and strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, your time ran out, and I'm gonna have to cut it loose, Mojo. I'm gonna have to cut it loose because I know we'll talk. So we'll talk again in the future. But because my time has run out, I do have other things to attend to. One of the things I can tell you is like, okay, I've got in my hand, I am not getting paid by this man. I love this book. Um, Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. And even as an educated man, I can tell you there are plenty of excerpts. Like if you look at my book, I do have it highlighted, tabbed, reference points so that you can go back and study. These are things that are not just, hey, I didn't want to do this for fun. But what did I do? I did not emotionally understand my wealth, my need to begin to take wealth in consideration. I was always thinking about what better job or what better project can I make if I can make this lump sum of money, kind of like gambling on a lottery ticket. But see, your life is much more than a lottery ticket. Stop, there are risks you're going to take, but if you can take things like I was saying, the total money makeover. I also read, I'm not getting paid from this guy either, Robert Greene, but I'm limiting, you know how I get where I get my information, because I'm promoting these guys because I find value in them. But I'm also writing my own book, my own conclusions, my own excerpts, which, when that gets published, it will more than likely be within a year. I'm in a transformational phase of my life. I looked at what didn't work and I look at what does. And I'm open to new procedures, and I'm willing to abandon all those emotions, that everything that held me back, those perceptional views, my physicality, not taking care of my health, not having good practice, daily practices. I looked at it all and I wrote things down. And I was like, okay, these are my weaker areas. Now let's go make them strengths. These are appointments that I have made for myself. And every single day, guess what? I will do them. I will make sure that I make conscious efforts, kind of like what James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits. He says incremental efforts become longevity success. He talks about how, a daily effort in investment compounds the interest of your effectiveness versus efficiency. Efficiency comes along with your effectiveness, and that's also dealing with discipline. So, to wrap the show, the final points on Sunday brunch, think about the actions that you've made this week. Think about exactly what you have produced this week in a good sense. Don't measure the bads first, measure the goods. What did you do? Work to being satisfied in your works by the end of the day. I start with gratitude. What am I grateful for? I have 3 beautiful daughters. I have an amazing family. I have an amazing significant other, my girlfriend, Adriana. She has made so many, impacts on me. I give her a lot of credit where credit is due. I have great colleagues and friends such as Mojo. I have great colleagues as well as like Ryan, a friend of mine now from the UK. And I'm forgetting his last name. I know he's probably listening, but yeah, Ryan Allen. I have Kristen Brown, who I bounce thoughts off of. Dr. Rout, who also gives a lot of spiritual, application to the body. I have another colleague, Marcella, who gives me the counter in understanding. Mark Childs. There's a lot of people that have made impacts in my works on wisdom and being a speaker. So when we look at, and then friends of mine like Cybershots and my co-host No Show, when we do Blank Canvas, there are a lot of things that have aided me along the way to be able to make decisions and choices of actions that produce outcomes I'm satisfied with. That doesn't mean that I'm completely satisfied all my life, but it means that you know what, I will get through this day to the best of my ability. And at the end of my day, I will do an evaluation of like, what do we need to pick up when tomorrow starts? That is progress, my friends. That is real mindfulness in the making. If you want to be successful, there are plenty of people that tell you, and they'll sell you programs. The only way I'm going to tell you that I can see success really truly working is being, number one, having the destination, number two, enjoying the experience. That's right, enjoying the experience for it to becoming wisdom. It begins to be knowledge, but then knowledge applied is wisdom. Number three, it's just being satisfied. There's this message people don't tell you, don't be satisfied. And this is what leads FOMO, fear of missing out. That's what leads that. But if you really look at it, like, hey, you can be satisfied. It doesn't mean that you're not going to step up the next day or get the next best thing. But it's like, look, as long as I am in control of my emotional desires and my wants and my interjections and all this, you know, like I need to respond. If I can control that, I can actually take a view of the field a lot better. Well, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind Sunday Brunch. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be talking more about action. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody who comes in and listens. Your support means a lot. If you are not following me on YouTube, it doesn't hurt by a couple clicks. Go into my profile, click in and find 72 the Architect and or Jason B. And on my profile, it's listed my link tree. It'll take you right to my YouTube. Become a subscriber today and be able to, see me in the live, in the making. Also be able to make comments. Some people don't want to come up and speak, but you know what? If you have comments that you just want to share, and I'll be more than happy to do that. Anyhow, we'll see you all tomorrow, and you all take care. Have a great Sunday ahead. May you produce the results you truly can be proud of. And I'm out. Oh, wait.